All right. Well, good afternoon and welcome to our second virtual event series. This month is all about career support, and we are excited to kick off part one, Jobs in This New World. I'm Stephanie Wetzel with the EWU Office of Alumni Relations, and today we have a wonderful guest joining us, Jenica Jett, a career advisor with the EWU Career Center. Good afternoon, Jenica. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. It's Wednesday already. I feel like sometimes the weeks fly by and sometimes they go a little slower.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my goodness. Well, I sure hope you're staying healthy and safe during these past few months of uncertainty. We really appreciate you joining us today to discuss seeking jobs in the virtual world. And now is the time to really sharpen up resumes and cover letters and learn how to navigate this new job search more virtually than ever before. And I'm really, really excited to explore this topic with you. So in order to kick us off today, I have a question. What are some of the most common mistakes people make in their job search?
Yeah, so commonly what we see at all levels, so from student to experienced career professionals, are things like not doing your research on, on the job market, on the job market in your area, on organizations in the area that you might want to work for, different types of roles that might be a good fit for you, kind of outside of the typical job titles you're thinking of. And also really doing some research on yourself, on your own strengths, skills, and weaknesses, and how that could apply to multiple different kinds of opportunities. Another really common mistake that we see is people just using one platform to search for jobs. So they'll come in and say, I've been using Handshake and I haven't found anything that fits me. And I'll ask, well, what other platforms have you been using? Or they're only using Indeed, and that's all they do. They just sit on their couch and just, use the Indeed app, and they're not finding things that are a good fit for them. Or they're just not finding a lot. And there's just so many different ways you can search for jobs that you want to use multiple different strategies and platforms to search for jobs. And we actually have a pretty nice list going on our website, ewu.edu/career center. And then if you go to the online job search page, there's a list of all sorts of ideas of different platforms you can use and also some different strategies you could try. But then the number one biggest mistake that we see is people only search online for jobs, when in reality, about over 80% of jobs are found out through our personal and professional connections. So just through talking to people. So, we call that networking. And some people, get kind of, don't really like the whole idea of networking because it sounds so formal. But really, networking is it's just about personal and professional connections to learn about jobs and help each other out in this complicated process.
Yeah, certainly. Those are really great tips. And I think it's really interesting that you brought up looking outside of the internet, and utilizing the network. And what's really great is Eastern has so many opportunities to do that, whether you're an alum or a young professional, you can come back in and network. We have some great opportunities through the Alumni Association as well. But I remember being in looking for a job, I'd use LinkedIn a lot or set up reminders on websites. You guys recommend that as well?
Yeah, so you could set up, like searches to alert you every time certain kinds of jobs pop up, and then can send you emails. Yeah.
No, I love that. I think it's really good because then I got an email and I'd be like, oh, I have to check it out, because you can't check everything out every day all the time. So it's nice to have the alert feature as well. Well, thank you. Yeah. So let's look at the next question. And I think it's really interesting that we live in such a world full of social media these days. And I have a question in regards to that. What role would you say social media plays in a job search?
Well, it was already playing a role in the job search, and now that everything is much more virtual, it's playing an even bigger role. So over 75% of employers use social media somehow in the whole hiring and searching process. And about 94% of those employers that use social media are using LinkedIn for this as well. So social media is kind of a big deal in the job search process for a couple of reasons. One, you can use it to create your own online personal brand and get out there on LinkedIn and, network with people that way. But also because you want to know what you're putting out there about yourself that employers might be finding. So you want to make sure that if you Google yourself, things that come up are only good. If your things are really like heated right now in the political world and social justice, and if you're out there calling people names on Spokane News, or whatever platform that you like to look at, like that a potential employer could be seeing that, and you want to really be aware of how you're portraying yourself out there in the public world, because anything on social media is public. I recommend putting your private social media spaces locked down to privacy settings so that it's not public unless you are using it to kind of portray yourself in a professional way.
Certainly. I love those tips.
Yeah. So, LinkedIn can also be used not just for networking, but also for job searching, research. It's a really good research tool for researching organizations and different job roles and career paths, and also has an online learning feature as well. So those are just some good ideas to think about in your job search, and not just looking on Indeed. Also think about this online aspect of social media. We don't have a ton of information about social media and LinkedIn on our website yet, but we do have a past webinar that we did with PRSSA. So if you go to our blog on our website, and there's the link right there, and just look for the PRSSA job search webinar, there's a video on there that has a lot of tips about LinkedIn and your online brand.
I love that. I know people these days are even making kind of their own website as their brand as well. And so it's really interesting how social media truly is woven into every aspect of our lives, for better or for worse, right? And so certainly being mindful of how we use it is critical when looking at job search. And it's certainly a perk, the internet that is. And so is social media. It's so easy to access those resources, and finding those right resources truly is key. So, well, thank you. I think that link will be super helpful for people. And PRSSA is a fantastic organization. And so I really appreciate that you guys sharing that resource. So what strategies would you recommend job seekers use to stand out in such a competitive market?
Yeah, so because of that added competition, people are getting furloughed and laid off, and some people are still just looking for new, better opportunities for themselves. And so there is a little bit more competition in this kind of environment, not just because of the pandemic, but because, things are shifting in the economy as well. So if you want to really stand out, there are some strategies you can try, like doing informational interviews. So that's where you try and form a connection with somebody in an organization that you would either like to work for, or with somebody who is doing the type of work that you think you might like to do. And just reaching out to them via LinkedIn or their contact information on the staff page, and just asking if they would ever have, 15 to 30 minutes to chat with you about their career path. And come ready with questions, and come ready looking as a professional of just being really respectful. And there are instances where sometimes that can turn into something else. But even if it doesn't, you might learn of other opportunities that you hadn't already learned about. We do have some information about informational interviews on our networking page on our website. And we do cover that in the PRSSA job search webinar series that I mentioned in the last question. Other things that you can do are reach out directly to recruiters to ask them questions about positions, and then follow up, say thank you to them, and let them know when you do apply for those jobs so that they can know to look for your application. Always following up with people after informational interviews, after interviews, and continuing to build your experience and skills while you're searching. So that way, the time is going to pass anyway, so you might as well be building that as you go, either through volunteer work, contract, freelancing, or doing online training as well.
I love that. Those are fantastic. I think the informational interviews are a really great resource and a tip. I think I conducted a couple right fresh out of college, just trying to like get a better understanding of the professional world. And I still was really curious. I didn't know what I wanted to get into. And I felt that those interviews and the opportunities that were given to me for people giving their time were extremely resourceful in helping me gain knowledge. And so I was curious on that note, would you recommend people suggesting like only a 15-minute call or maybe an in-person informational? Sometimes what about coffee or lunch?
I think just giving them the option of what's most convenient for them is great. A lot of people are trying to work from home right now, including employers, and even employers are juggling, having to work at home while they're watching their kids. So just being really mindful that things aren't how they used to be, where you could just kind of run out and meet at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
So, let them know that, what you're comfortable with, like, we could chat over the phone or talk over, Zoom or a social distance, coffee meeting. And, typically trying to keep it to, no more than 30 minutes will be an easier sell for them, because then it's not quite an investment in their time to just chat with you really quick about something that they probably enjoy talking about, which is their path.
Yeah, totally. Well, goodness. Yeah, the competition is fierce, like you said. And we're in a really interesting time with people furlough and layoff and even looking into career changes, which we'll talk about next week. But in the end, I think those are really great tips and resources that you're offering in regards to that question. So in addition to this transformation of job searching in a virtual world, I know there is so much more to the mix of the job search, such as resumes and cover letters. And I had a question. I have a few questions around those. I was interested if you could share with us a bit more. As resumes and cover letters truly are oftentimes our first impression for people. And so what are some of the most common mistakes you see people making with their resumes?
Yeah, and there's so much we could talk about resumes and cover letters. So I'm going to try not to go down a rabbit hole with it.
No worries.
But just know that, we do help with that if you ever want, to get help from our office. But the most common mistake that we see at all levels, student to experienced professionals, are using the same resume for every job and just dumping it into, like a job search engine and hoping that you'll just be recruited from that one resume for multiple different kinds of jobs.
Definitely.
So the most strategic thing you can do is tailor every resume. It should take some time to really thoughtfully apply for every job, tailoring that resume to the qualifications of that job posting. Another mistake is not sufficiently telling them how you are qualified for the role. So a lot of people will put in there, I have communication skills under their skills section, but to an employer, they're kind of glaze over that. You have to tell them how, and kind of give them a visual of how these things have worked for you.
Love that.
So you'd want to learn how to write some strong experience entries and use some similar keywords as the job posting, but authentically. So in this world, ATS, applicant tracking systems, are even more common because there's more competition. So the more applicants there are for the job, the more common it's going to be for employers, especially large employers like Fortune 500 companies, to be using those systems. So it makes it even more important to tailor your job posting or your resume to the job posting, and use similar language as them authentically without keyword stuffing, because that could get you kind of blacklisted from a company. Yeah, I think those were my top mistakes. We do have a page on our website that goes over resumes. If you want to see how you should do a resume strategically, I would give that a shot. And then if you have, some unique situations that you want to work with a career advisor on, to come in and chat with one of us, or not come in, I guess we're all virtual, but create a virtual appointment.
It's definitely a habit, I tell you. Well,
yeah.
Those are great. I think I never heard of the APS tracking system. That's really interesting. Definitely new news to me. Really appreciate that feedback. And I think that it's really interesting that on your resume website, do you guys offer like templates? Because I feel like even in conversation with my friends who are more experienced professionals, it's always like, well, what is the preferred look of a resume? Is there one? Is it one? There's a lot of myths, and I know we're going to get into that, but just out of curiosity, if you guys have that type of resource on your resume website.
Yeah, and we do get a lot of questions about the whole 1 page versus 2 pages. It's okay to go to 2 pages if you have a good reason to do so and you have sufficient education and experience to warrant that for the job that you're applying for. So sometimes we do see people actually downplaying their experience because they're trying so hard to get everything onto 1 page. And it's like, no, like, you're a 2-page person at this point. You need to use those 2 pages. If you do go to 2 pages, you just want to make sure that you're using at least half to 3/4 of that page. Okay. And you aren't using a second page just because you couldn't fit a little bit up at the top. But I usually recommend that people just worry about the content first, getting that really stellar, and then see where you are as far as page length and see if you need 1 page or 2 pages. Yeah. As far as how it should look, we don't usually recommend using templates because that can be more of a headache for you. So we don't really share templates on our website because it causes a lot of issues. We have like one example, but the best thing to do is left aligned, clean, clear layout. Everything's consistent. It's easy to read and understand. Not only will this be easier for a hiring manager or recruiter to sift through all that information very quickly, but it will be better for applicant tracking systems as well.
Yeah.
Getting too fancy with your designs and trying making it look cute or fancy can sometimes actually be a little risky if you don't really know what you're doing, and can come at the cost of the content you're trying to put on there. But if you are, some people like graphic designers, they might need a designed resume. And so that's a different conversation. And we do have an advisor who specializes in that area. So if you ever want to talk to one of them about that, we can. Perfect. And then another myth that we hear about is people thinking resumes need to be some kind of chronological job history of anything and everything you've done. Whereas really, maybe for like a federal job, it would need to be something like that. Right. But in reality, a resume is more like a marketing tool. And you just put the things on there that the employer wants. That's going to help you show the employer that you're qualified for that job.
Oh, that's really interesting. I know I've fallen into some of those mistakes that you've just shared. So staying steadfast in the basics, right? Making sure that you're just maintaining the authenticity is super important.
Yeah.
Well, resumes are a simple way to share our experience, I think. And I think that also kind of segues into the next question of cover letters. Are they really necessary? Is there a way that resumes and cover letters can really portray a bigger picture than just, here's my experience?
Yeah. So unless an employer says they do not want a cover letter, I would always include a cover letter. If you are applying for a competitive position and they only have time to interview 3 people and they're looking at 4 applicants and you're the one that didn't include a cover letter, that's an easy decision for them. It shows them your writing skills, but more importantly, it goes into depth on your top qualifications in relation to the role. It's not meant to be a repetition of the things that are already on your resume. It's meant to give a bigger picture of how you are a great fit for this position and to go on into depth on your most competitive characteristics and skills.
Yeah, I love that. Sometimes I find, I think personally, sometimes cover letters can be a little arduous and it kind of stresses me out when I've had to do them in the past. And I know I've walked a couple friends, and as a mentor, I've worked with some young professionals as well in that capacity. Do you guys have any tips and tricks on how to write a cover letter, or even just kind of the basics?
Yeah, so we do have a page on our website. Just go to our website and go to the applying page. There's a applying page. I can't remember exactly, but it's the cover letter page, and it goes over every paragraph and every section of the resume. But if you use a structure each time and just kind of fill in that structure, it's going to create a lot less anxiety in writing that. The way I like to teach resumes, and a lot of us at the Career Center teach it, is to use your intro paragraph to give, a reason of why you want to work for this company based on who they are, not who, all of your goals and hopes and dreams. And, a thesis statement of your top 2 to 3 qualifications.
Love that.
in relation to this job based on what they said they're looking for.
Yeah.
Then in those middle paragraphs, break down, like each paragraph could talk about one of those qualifications in depth, and adding one example per paragraph to back up your claim of why you're qualified.
Yeah.
So if one of your qualifications is your education at Eastern Washington University and all these great things that you studied, how would you back that up with an example?
Right.
You could share a capstone project that you worked on, and go into a little bit of detail about how that would benefit this company, or what you could bring to the role based on that.
Absolutely. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I definitely encourage people to visit that ewu.edu career centers at cover letters. Check that out for some more fantastic resources on writing that. And we do have one last question for you. How can we stay motivated, and by we as in everybody in general, in searching and applying for jobs? Because I know it can be definitely fatiguing, stressful, anxiety building. So just curious on your thoughts around that.
So, not only are people dealing with the stress of, job searching, which can be really complicated, but we're dealing with a global pandemic. So there's just a lot of stress involved, and just recognize that it is complicated. It is stressful. That's why we have a whole department dedicated to helping you with this. I mean, that just shows you right there, like, this is a real thing. It can be really, it can be difficult, but we can help make that process easier. To help stay motivated, try and come up with a plan, so that way you don't feel like you're just out there in this job search void, just throwing darts at, a dartboard with a blindfold on. Come up with a plan for yourself that's going to work for you and your unique situation, and take small steps towards that plan. So, some people, may not be super into doing an informational interview because they're like, I've never done that. I don't know. Right. But maybe your plan is maybe the first step is just to create the email.
Yeah.
Just write the email of what would you say? And then the next step is just to send it and see what happens. The next step, create your questions of what you would want to ask this person.
Absolutely.
And then set up the meeting. So just break it down into smaller steps. Also understand that rejection is completely normal in the hiring process. There's a lot that's out of your control that may not have anything to do with you. And you're going to experience rejection, and it just happens to everyone. So that's completely normal. It's not a personal thing. And even though it does feel personal, it's not personal. And practice self-care to stay motivated. So, really take care of yourself in this process, and reward yourself for everything that you accomplish, even if it's just sending that email to ask for an informational interview.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this is excellent information, and I really hope that this information finds those who are seeking it today, and your insight, Jenica, has been absolutely appreciated. So thank you for that. For those who are looking for more tangible resources, feel free to go to any of those links we had on the screen today. And if you're watching, thank you. And I really hope that you join us next Wednesday at August 19th at noon for our part 2 of our career support series. Are you looking to learn more about mentoring? Well, right now, this summer, the EWU Office of Alumni Relations and the Career Center partnered to create the Eagle Career Network. So feel free to join today. Check it out, ecn.ewu.edu. Connect with fellow EAGs, and it's a great way to strengthen that network that Jenica talked about today, as well as create invaluable career support. So make sure to check them out at the Career Center website, ewu.edu/career center. The Career Center has a ton of free resources for all EAGs, and you can connect virtually with them regarding all your career needs. So next week, Robin Hoffman with the Career Center will be joining us next to discuss career changes. So stay in touch with us at the Alumni Association online, and where you'll find more information about future virtual events and programs like our new Eagle Flights Wine Club. Have a great rest of your day, and go EAGs.